In this meditation, you may lie, sit, walk, go work, sleep, eat, talk, meet, be lazy, act, think, hang around, or whatever world self does. Whatever it does, you simply observe lovingly and carefree from that higher viewpoint. You don't have to explicitly identify with that viewpoint. It is already implicit in the observing without judgment. When loosing your poise or the standpoint of observer by being drawn into anger and resistance or craving and needing, you may temporarily loose the channel to higher self. But once you again allow for some silence, it pops right back up. An alternative to the meditation would be to take the mindless walk, meaning walking without aim and purpose, but instead letting yourself be guided by intuition. If you wish to remain in the viewpoint of world self, you may have a dialogue with higher self, simply acknowledging that you have an inner coach. You may talk to it, admitting to your limitations, asking questions, and being grateful for answers. Then you simply watch out for dreams, intuition, and coincidences that you're shown. And you acknowledge these as valid communications of higher intelligence. Being ungrateful or trivializing improbable coincidences is not helpful. This doesn't mean you have to place meaning into every coincidence that pops up. The coincidence itself can be enough to indicate that you are on the right track. Throughout your life, you may want to shift from addressing higher self to being higher self. You may want to give up your old definitions of who you are. As what do you define yourself? As a trash product of evolution. That's a far cry from the beautiful magnificence that you are. As what you define yourself determines what you can experience. You may also want to ask yourself what is left of you when everything has been removed. One can do this in meditation, or even go on a retreat or vacation and simply leave all habitual selves and routines behind. What's left after it's all been removed is closer to a higher aspect of yourself, closer to your true nature. Effective meditation retreats do not offer new belief systems and teachings, but create a caring atmosphere in which it is easy to release belief systems, extracting hidden information from higher self. Close the eyes. Create/allow a feeling of excitement or high joy by intent alone, without the help of images, thoughts, anchors, reasons, or background. When this high energy state, if felt, then view what imagines come up by themselves without you having consciously created them. View what images are attracted naturally by excitement. What comes up might surprise you. And when something does come up, simply explore it. The purpose of this special meditation is that high energy can be used to fish for things from parts of yourself that were hidden, things higher self knows, but world self doesn't. This can give you information about which direction to go or what could be done next. Rather than creating excitement with images, you create images with excitement. Exploring the unknown. Higher self is nothing you have to achieve. It's what you already are behind all the masks, beliefs, and identities. The thin layer of experience you call reality, which you perceive with your normal senses, is just that, a thin layer. Behind it lies infinity and truer versions of yourself. Access to these is not gained through what is known, but through many small or big meetings with the unknown. On your life's path, it can sometimes be beneficial to leave the known behind you and step into the unknown. In this way, intuition, which corresponds to higher self, is activated. Since the world self doesn't know anything about a situation that presents itself, another part of yourself is called upon that does know something about it. The thin layer of the known, in which you say do, think similar things as the day before and the day before, will not lead to the unknown. Looking at the unknown inside or outside, there's no difference between the two. You expand your limits and find out more about yourself behind the thin layer of habit. There's a lot of consciousness, awareness, and energy waiting to be let in. If you label the unknown, or change, or new things, or strange things as negative, then expanding your consciousness will seem like something horrifying, and everything unknown will activate fear. Fear of losing your so-called safety, or social status, or leaving your comfort zone. Feeling just a little bit of fear when diving into the unknown is natural and okay though. When the new and unknown occurs, your mind restructures itself to adapt to the new input. The process of restructuring may occasionally cause a little bit of fear. But remember that nothing has to feel or be unpleasant, and that nothing is forcing you to label events as bad. You are the safety that you often seek out there. Safety is not dependent on outer circumstances. Exploring the unknown doesn't have to be stressful. It can be fascinating and energizing. When leaving your comfort zone of familiarity, you can do it from a platform of inner and outer stability. Change of worldly identity. Changing the worldly identity is one of the paths of the wizard. The true wizard or shaman is someone who has extraordinary abilities in perception, creation, and action. The reason for this is because he does not merely operate from the viewpoint of a personality or identity, but from the viewpoint of higher self. By changing the identity, the wizard recognizes to basic truths that he is none of the identities and corresponding realities. That he is something much bigger and brighter than a collection of hobbies, surroundings, and traits. Personality is a construct of consciousness. Extreme identity change. This would involve giving up your entire life as you know it and build up a brand new life. This might include changing your name and profession, leaving your family, moving to another location, giving up your past, and throwing away anything that reminds you of that past. In an even more extreme variation on identity change, you wouldn't even remain in the same country or linguistic area. You'd learn a new language, a new job, have a new style of dressing yourself, build up a new circle of friends, develop new habits, etc. In a yet even more extreme variation of identity change, you'd abandon your newly made identity after only half a year and move on to another identity. In this way, you'd travel from place to place and from reality to reality, always as another person with another past and another future and another name. The extreme identity change, complete change of worldly identity, and the ultra-extreme identity change, doing this more often, of course require a depth of self-trust usually not found in modern society. It would also require the trust that you can create any reality you like. If you don't believe in that ability, you wouldn't give up any of your safety. It is in this sense that the identity change would be another way to develop your reality creation ability beyond your wildest dreams. Why? Because of all the challenges approaching you when you identity change. Only even considering a worldly identity change is courageous. But having understood the lessons of this book, it is actually not that outrageous. The I is an artificial construct covered by a thin layer of daily habits that can easily be deconstructed to experience something more refreshing. Identity change light. As I am sensitive of people's resistance to change and to their magical abilities, I can say that it's not necessary to conduct an extreme change of the world self in order to have fun and magic. A light version of identity change would involve simply changing or removing one single element of an identity and to replace it with another. This is of interest to two types of people: criminal people and magical people. It is the magical people that are addressed here. A worldly identity is made up of the following components: a name, a profession or regular activity, family, friends and foes, a place of living, ownership of material objects, documents that prove your identity, passport, birth certificate, CV, pictures, etc. Things that prove your past, objects, pictures, certificates, CV, etc. Languages and dialects you speak. Certain most used vocabulary, typical phrases, intonations, idioms, and ways to communicate. Certain looks of your body and face. Certain gestures, mimics, and movements. Certain hobbies, preferred places, and regular activities. Certain character traits and attitudes. Certain desires, dreams, and goals. Certain resistances and dispreferences. Certain strengths and weaknesses. Changing, removing, or replacing one of these elements can be fun and cause a slight identity shift and its accompanying fresh rush of energy. You could change the name by which people call you with. You could change the friends you spend time with. You could even change your enemies. You can change your job or where you live. You could change the way you behave and speak. Cults and sects often use methods of de-identification, but not for purposes of reality creation, rather for purposes of reindoctrination into their specific belief system. In changing elements of the world self, you're having fun meddling with the core identity, which is basically a mask hiding your soul. This is one of many methods to reconnect to a truer part of yourself. Looking into the unknown. This would basically be the exercise of becoming more curious. If you come out of an experience knowing a lot more than you did before, then you have looked into the unknown and made it known. Here are a few variations on this. Unknown information. How about applying the internet to find out something you always wanted to know? Or how about getting into information that is completely new or foreign to you? Eyes getting used to the darkness. Go into a dark place, a room, or the woods, for example. Stay and rest there until your eyes get used to the darkness. Your insecurity has passed, and you can see some things you couldn't see before. Afterwards, ask yourself, what does this experiential exercise tell you about life? Expansion of awareness, learning and looking into the unknown. Look behind the curtain. If there's a wall or curtain somewhere, go and look behind it. If you're meditating and see a fog or blackness or barrier within, look behind it. Revealing secrets. Enjoy bringing to light the secrets and hidden things of people, nature, organizations, the body, companies, or whatever. Nothing can hide from my eyes. Perceiving secrets is easier when you don't keep secrets from yourself, meaning you know yourself well. Knowing yourself implies knowing infinity, because you are infinity. Don't finish this exercise until you have really found out something that was secret. Secret realities. There are an unlimited number of realities and games being played out on this planet. As long as you can't imagine they are happening, they remain secret to you. Some things happen before your very eyes, but you can't perceive them because they don't match your belief system. If someone happens to begin discovering a secret reality while he is in the viewpoint of victim or in fear, the perception becomes a conspiracy theory in which someone is trying to keep something secret that is threatening to one personally. Out of the viewpoint of self-responsibility and vibratory resonance with love, there is no conspiracy against poor little me, of course, but secrets nevertheless. Were you to expand your attention only a little, you would find the most interesting things happening on this planet. You would find people and beings living beneath the earth. You would find beings from other planets and dimensions visiting. You would meet interesting shamans and wizards. You would become aware of interesting organizations, and even secret corridors and doors within organizations, and much more. Beaming yourself into the unknown. If you want something new to happen, you have to behave in a new way. Crazy or silly breaks of routine and action will facilitate this. Or when you put attention on something you've never put on before. Writing yourself into the unknown. Choose a topic and list it at the top of a piece of paper as its title. Draw a line through the middle of the paper so that you have two columns. The title of the first column is known, the title of the second column is unknown. Alternative between writing down something you know about the topic and something you don't know about it. After you have gathered an overview about what you know and don't know, now being more aware of what exactly you don't seem to know, turn the piece of paper around and entitle it Known About Unknown, in which you write what you know about the things mentioned in the unknown column. Repeat the exercise with various topics. If you do it properly, you will gain new insights and experience an increase in intelligence, while more and more of what you didn't know you will start knowing. Understand that you have access to infinity and all its knowledge. Presuming that you don't know something is a limiting belief. Trying to figure out something presumes you don't know it. Instead, you could close your eyes and intend that you do know, then let go of the meditation and see what comes up during the day, leaving the cycle of reincarnation. Popular New Age theory and Eastern religions teach that the soul keeps reincarnating on this planet. It dies, then it's born again here. Many events hint that reincarnation is obligatory by failing to mention that it is only an option. The RC viewpoint is a completely different one. Reincarnation is neither a must nor is it limited to one single planet or dimension. Reincarnation to this planet only becomes an option when the soul hasn't fully experienced the games and lessons it wanted to experience on Earth. The process is as follows. A soul chooses a life in order to play certain games, or go through certain training lessons. It incarnates on the planet and is born with a body, not in the body, but with a body. It is born with nearly full amnesia of all other existence, lives. The purpose of forgetting everything else is so that the soul can focus on its earthly life with a fresh sheet of paper, without any preconceptions, distractions, and can thus develop new abilities. An analogy: if you were to be set out on an abandoned island without help, tools, chauffeur, bar, hotel, etc., your survival will be driven to learn certain abilities much quicker and deeper. The lessons a soul chooses are often connected to courage and love. If one does not have the courage to follow a certain path of which he feels it would be the right one, chosen on a pre-incarnate level, he might choose to reincarnate until he finally has the courage to walk that path. After death, self normally only takes the most intense experiences over to the other side. Experiences of mediocre energy, activity, or emotion fade away quickly in the afterlife. The moments you help someone who is really suffering, the moments you fulfilled a personal desire, the moments of very high and very low emotion you do remember in the afterlife. They are saved in your soul's individual field of energy. Some souls take so little with them from a life that they choose to reincarnate in order to increase the radiance of their energy field. Not the wanting to get away from this life, not escaping this life, not wanting to ascend or become enlightened is the true spiritual path, but deep and wholehearted love of this life and courage are the spiritual path in the sense that you will probably not reincarnate after you have experienced that depth of love. This is how you can exit the cycle of reincarnation and go somewhere else. Identifying with infinity. RC is the art of no longer believing in lack. The art of the dark empire that rules this world is to remind you of lack every day in every way. In the news, in the conversations of society, in the schooling, in the events, in ways it tries to grab your attention. But you only fall for it when you're in agreement with it, and are thus not quite aware when you are buying into some belief that is based on lack. One way to release the belief in lack is to simply view the ways of infinity as they constantly show themselves. If you look at how nature behaves, it becomes very difficult to sustain a belief in lack. While noticing the thriving abundance and overflow of resources in the universe, it soon becomes utterly silly to believe in lack of love, wealth, health, ability, beauty, information, knowledge, or anything else. If you ever doubt the total abundance and your incredible wealth and power, all you have to do is face the facts of nature as they present themselves to you. You don't have to pretend or act like or imagine them, because they are ever present. Maintaining an attitude of lack takes a lot of effort and squinting in light of this. Infinity contains everything. That means it also contains you, but it also contains the thing you desire or the solution to some problem. So since you're intimately connected to infinity, you can also be intimately connected to your desire. Whenever you feel lacking, remind yourself your personal connection to infinity and of the aspect of infinity that contains the solution to your issue or the fulfillment of a desire. The formula is infinity and X, desired item or solution, are one. I and infinity are one. Therefore, I and X, desired item or solution, are one. Referring to this type of logic may not immediately convince you of the reality of what you want, but it will at least render the unwanted unconvincing. By comparing a lack belief to all that is, you put things back into perspective. In light of all that is, what does the problem seem like? The answer is always smaller, not entirely convincing anymore. So simply looking at the attributes of life, the universe, and everything and identifying with them, acknowledging, I am a part of this, not just with words but with the heart, will turn lack into respect and uncertainty of your limiting belief. And once you are no longer entirely or 100% sure of that unwanted belief, you are in a de-identified space, not yet believing what you prefer, but also not totally believing what you don't prefer. You stand between two worlds, and it is here that you can choose. Just one example of using this type of reasoning: I feel poor. But looking at the nature of infinity, I see it beaming with lush abundance of stars, planets, people, sand, trees, grass, cars, and all kinds of other things. This massive surplus is given. I must have drawn a circle around my feet, which makes me the exception to this thriving overflow. In light of the nature of infinity and my inherent oneness with it, I can no longer be completely convinced that I am poor is entirely true. Therefore, both I am poor and I am rich is somewhat poor. And I do notice in which areas I am factually already rich. I am rich in knowledge, objects, resources, information, friends. I'm not entirely cut off from the flow. This type of self-talk is not meant to make you believe something you do not believe. It is not said half-heartedly or shallowly. It is meant to be looked at wholeheartedly and put you into a place of uncertainty about your unwanted belief. It is then from there that it will be easier to choose a new belief. Wholeness. You do not always get what you want, you get who you are. It will often not suffice to visualize the desired reality. You have to identify and embody it with your whole being as if it were factually present. If you want a situation released, you have to first release it within yourself. If you want to become one, if you want to be a whole being, you don't deny or resist anything either. People sometimes mistake this statement with, I have to embrace the negative. This misinterpretation then becomes something like, I have to also become a murderer and child molester in order to embrace my whole self. This is nonsense. When talking about embracing your whole self and everything that is, we are talking about emotions and mental patterns and things that have already presented themselves to you in your reality. We're not talking about going out there and actively searching out negative things to embrace. Having embraced all aspects of yourself inwardly leads to you no longer having to express them outwardly. In other words, the murderer becomes he has suppressed aspects of himself so intensely that they are manifested out there. Society, by defining laws and regulations against things, contributes to the suppression and thus energy focus on certain behaviors. In your most natural, non-suppressing state, you wouldn't even consider to commit inhuman acts or violence. Violence and degradation are not a built-in part of human nature. They are side effects of a year-long accumulation and suppression of shame, depression, and fear. In a spiritually mature society, laws are not necessary, because in their most natural state, humans wouldn't understand the purpose of crime. Understanding law of correspondence, one understands that what one puts out or gives or does to others comes back to oneself. One also understands that lying, cheating, stealing, and hurting others is not necessary, because one can manifest whatever one wants without hurting others and without taking away from others. All crime is based on not knowing the law of correspondence or the law of attraction. If it is love you want, you have to choose to be loving. If it is money you want, you have to be grateful for the money you already have and generous to the world around you. If it is health you want, you have to represent what health means to you: strength, beauty, vitality. You claim a reality and rest in the corresponding viewpoint, with your whole being, with your whole body. If this is not understood, reality creation never leaves the stage of wishful thinking. Any type of asking about manifestation is a hint that you have not wholeheartedly identified with what you want. Occupying the inner space in which the desire is already manifest makes any question about it or trying to get it superfluous. You believe in your heart's vision so strongly that any question about it seems laughable. So what is the difference between utter fanaticism and reality creation? Fanatics try to convince others of their reality, meaning their inner authority is not enough, which again means they are not really fully convinced, while reality creators are in a sense fanatic, but without having to impose their opinion on others. RC is not a mental event, but an embodiment. To give you a feeling for this, touch some object in your surroundings or have a sip of coffee if the coffee is nearby. Now do the same thing in your imagination to the extent that there is no difference between the two experiences, or so that the imagined version seems even more real. Now imagine holding someone's hand. Now imagine sucking a lemon. None of these things are physical, Yet while imagining sucking a lemon in your mouth probably produced saliva, and you have a direct experience of how an inner reality produces effects in the outer. When you held that imaginary person's hand, you probably had an emotion accompanying it. To every outside creation, there's a corresponding inner creation. And this does not only work on the body, but with anything outside and around the body, inside the body of consciousness. Anything you perceive is not outside you anyway, otherwise you wouldn't perceive it. Do you feel the difference between touching imaginary water and imaginary sand? If so, you have the ability to reality create. If you don't merely create thought scraps, but experience feelings to your thoughts, you are on the path of reality creation. Define a reality you desire. Think about an object the person already living in this reality handles. Handle it in your imagination until you get a real body sense that does not differ from the real sense. Then let go of this exercise because you take it for granted that the object is at your disposal anytime, which is why you don't have to hold on to it. Understanding what you just did makes reality creation as easy as placing orders. Let's say you purchase something over the internet. You have sent your order with a click on a website. You have paid for it. You know it's going to arrive. Period. Even though you don't actually have the item physically, once you send your order, you know the item is most probably yours. UPS or FedEx will deliver it and your job is done. Chances are you will tell someone that you already have it, although it hasn't actually arrived yet. You wouldn't start doubting the delivery service because it hasn't shown up the next day. You wouldn't go ordering it again after a few hours. You wouldn't be looking for proof of its arrival. You may be happy that it is on its way, but other than that, you wouldn't even concern yourself with it much. Reality creation operates in a nearly identical way. Notice how you don't worry about the most important things, such as breathing. When you live in the feeling of your wholeness, you understand that less is more, or that the greatest power requires the lightest touch. Force and effort contradict the lightness of touch required to practice RC. When reality creation doesn't work, when reality creation does work, people often refer to that occurrence with statements like, "Wow, that is unbelievable, that is really strange," and so forth. Labeling successful RC in this way reveals a lot about the inner beliefs people have about RC. If it really is that unbelievable for you, apparently you don't believe that it can become a normal, familiar, and joyful part of your life. So in the instances that reality creation doesn't seem to work, once again, check your beliefs. Saying reality creation doesn't work is using reality creation to create that it doesn't work. Merely noticing that an outer manifestation hasn't occurred yet is not a counterbelief. A counterbelief that means letting that lack of an outer manifestation talk you out of your belief in the inner manifestation, letting that lack prove to you that it is not real. If outer manifestation seems to take a long time in coming, or you have some feeling that it has not manifested within you, there are a few things you can do. 1. Notice that it hasn't manifested yet and synchronize a bit more with it. Repeat pure, but this time wholeheartedly. 2. Call for the manifestation of something more simply or small and notice how strong you have become as a creator while pursuing the bigger thing. 3. Choose something similar to the desire or a stepping stone to that desire that is already naturally flowing in your direction anyway. 4. Let go of the whole thing. Forget about it. 5. Enter a version of yourself for who physical manifestation happens quickly. 6. Act the whole reality out using props, objects, surroundings, and places from the reality you want to see manifest. Align with it physically to train your body and mind to feel what it feels like to already reside in that reality. These are only a few of many things you can do if it, after a while, seems that you are not manifesting. Or you can, of course, give up RC and continue living life as if it had nothing to do with you. It's your choice. Sometimes this choice will seem to relieve people. If giving up metaphysics and RC study results in relief, this is an indicator that you haven't been using RC in its most effortless and natural way anyway. Instead, you have been intellectualizing and practicing RC in the head rather than feeling it with your whole body awareness. And you have been placing work and resistance before fun, play, and relaxation. Questioning the unwanted. Notice how in most teaching models things like doubt and insecurity have a negative connotation, as if you're somehow not allowed to feel doubt. Not so in RC. There are reasons for doubt. They point to beliefs you are harboring and things you're not willing to be ready for. Furthermore, doubt in unwanted realities is a blessing. Doubt an unwanted reality and you remove the fixation on the unwanted. When you are experiencing something you don't want to experience, ask yourself, do I really know this? Is this really true? Asking such questions in honesty will have doubt creep up. This frees you from so-called knowledge that no longer represents what you prefer and returns you to innocence, to the open mind of a beginner. And from this open space of uncertainty, it is easier to create something new. The secret of success. So what is the secret of success? Let's see if you have been paying attention. Is the secret of success silence, attention, identification, success, or vibration? The answer is, the secret of success is success. Like attracts like, notice that shift. See if you can spend some time noticing that shift into the unwanted. Notice how quickly you can shift into automatic negativism, how easy it comes. Once you notice the shifting point, you have already stopped it and gain an understanding of how easy it must also be to shift into something better. It's actually as easy as closing then opening your eyes. Close them, open them. You are in a new parallel reality. Simply observing your daily shifts will give you a good understanding of your repetitive beliefs. Remember that if you can first control yourself, you can control any situation. If you ask, why do I keep falling back into old patterns? The answer is simply because you believe the facts rather than your dreams. If you ask, what do I do when others disturb my new reality? The answer is simply, leave them alone. Mutual attraction. Reality creation equals mutual attraction. Choose a reality you want to experience and say, I love loves me. Reason ing. Write down something you want. Then write down why you want it. Then write down why you believe you can have it. Translating a desire into a belief and a belief into a feeling. Make a statement of what is wanted. Think about what the statement would be if your desire were already real. Speak that statement, then take a long, deep, slow breathe. Repeat 10 times. Attention laser. State a desire in the I am and present form. Write down or express the first objection or doubt that comes up. Repeat steps 1 and 2 continuously until objections start flattening, getting boring, and focus on what is desired comes easy. An example. I am happy. You're right. I am happy. Who am I fooling? I am happy. Not really. I feel quite lost actually. I am happy. Why should I be? I am happy. No, I am sad. I am happy. No, I am really sad. I am happy. I am starting to get angry. I am happy. I am angry at this stupid exercise. I am happy. What a dumb exercise. I am happy. Sure. I am happy. Then why don't I feel happy? I am happy. I am not happy with my job situation though. I am happy. I don't know what to be happy about. I am happy. Well, I'm okay, I guess. I am happy. Repeating it will not make it so. I am happy. Okay, just a little bit. I am happy. Well, I do feel something. I am happy. I can't get my job situation out of my mind. I am happy. I wish I really were. I am happy. I don't believe in this nonsense. I am happy. If you do use this specific method, don't use it as an affirmation to make something happen out there later, but for the purpose of handling your attention right now. Used as such, it is one of the most powerful tools of this book. Because, state a desired reality and follow this with a because, stating why you want it or why it's going to happen. Repeat several times with many different reasons. The reality will start becoming more tangible and alive with emotion. 4-way statement. State a desired reality in the I form, then the he form, then the you form, then the we form. Example. I am a successful person. Is a successful person, referring to yourself from an outside viewpoint. You are a successful person, referring to yourself from an outside viewpoint. We are a successful person, referring to all parts of yourself involving the whole you. This technique is not to be used as an affirmation out of a state of lack, but as a playful, quick exercise to refresh a desire. Repeat it 2 or 3 times per topic, not more. Detached interest. Do I really have to let go of my desired creation? Many ask. Some have trouble with this part of the equation because they think letting go implies no longer being interested in the manifestation. This is a misunderstanding. It is all right to be interested. After all, it's what this whole book is about: reality creation. Letting go, or leaving manifestation to infinity, doesn't mean you don't care about it anymore. Interest and desire are the very energy that spark reality creation in the first place. The problem is when interest and desire become too strong, when they turn into needing, pushing, worrying, controlling. Craving something contradicts enjoying fulfillment. The proper formula can be called detached interest. Up to speed with what you want. Before entering a new self, reality creating, ask yourself, am I really ready and willing to be what this new reality requires of me? What you wants something from you. We have already talked about how any apparently negative reality has a payoff, a hidden positive reason you have been keeping it. Likewise, every desired reality has a price. The price is giving up your old self, giving up the payoffs of the old self. You may want a good lover, but are you willing to be a good lover? You may want money, but are you willing to be like a person who has it? By being something, you let the reality you desire find you. Shape-shifting. As already mentioned, what we are calling pure technique in this book is called shape-shifting in various shamanic traditions. By this standard, you master what you become. This applies to things you want, as we have pointed out again and again, but in a variation of all that has been said in this book, it could also be applied to things you are afraid of. In this type of practice, you would shape-shift into the thing you are afraid of. If you are afraid of dogs, become a dog yourself. Yes, this would mean closing your eyes and identifying with dog to an extent that you become a dog inwardly. Then, the next time your neighbor's dog approaches you, recall that identification and see what happens. It's quite obvious what will happen. Due to the vibratory synchrony that has occurred, the dog will no longer want to attack you, but rather bond with you. This is using pure, not with the intention to manifest something, but with the intention to identify with something for gaining an understanding of it. Make that intention clear at the beginning of your session, then there will be no problem of you physically manifesting traits of a dog. This points to another important aspect of pure, or how imagination creates reality. If you fantasize or imagine without the purpose of creating it or without identifying with it emotionally, it will not manifest. That means, don't worry about your thoughts and fantasies. It is possible to fantasize something without manifesting it, simply by not assigning any reality to it, which is what most people think about imagination anyway. This is the very reason our imagination lost power to begin with, because we were scared of our thoughts, scared of their consequences. Why oh why? We have been conditioned to ask why when something undesirable happens. This conditioning can be seen every day. What is the cause of the problem? Why does it always happen to me? Where does it come from? Who did it? Asking about the cause of problems, however, intensifies attention on the undesired issue, makes it more important than it is, and creates further answers, beliefs, to solidify the validity of that reality. The question also implies that you are not the source, the creator of it, and that the cause lies elsewhere or somewhere you can't see. Having gotten us to look for causes of problems is part of the grand trick being played on this planet. Except if you want to experiment as to how you are creating a problem, don't ask why to undesired events, but rather in referring to positive events. Why do I want that? Why do I believe it can happen? Such questions create supporting beliefs for something desired. How can I lose weight and enjoy the process? Is a radically more beneficial question than why am I so fat? No final destination. The truth is not out there or up there. Your soul is not a searcher, it's a player. You will never arrive at some final destination, so enjoy the trip. Many desire some final solution or ideal state or enlightenment or everything is going to be okay when I win the lottery or I have finally found peace. But this implies that existence is static and stagnant, which it is not. It is infinite and eternal, forever expanding, forever defining itself anew. There's no such thing as now I have achieved it, because once you have, the next exciting horizon comes to view. If that weren't the case, infinity would be a pretty boring place. On looking for beliefs, plenty of RC practitioners have made it a sort of prime hobby to go looking for limiting and hidden beliefs within themselves. They do this because they understand that it is their beliefs on the deepest level that create their reality. While this is certainly a valid way to go about RC, it is maybe not the easiest way, especially when looking for limiting beliefs becomes looking for problems. It might be easier to understand that your hidden beliefs present themselves naturally by the very experiences you have in everyday life. By what is happening to you all the time, you can easily glean what deeper beliefs and intentions you have. Looking for deep-seated, subconscious beliefs, as many people practice it, not only presupposes that you don't know what they are because they are so very deep, but also ignores the quite obvious translations and effects of your core beliefs manifesting all around you. The so-called hidden beliefs are not hidden at all, but right in front of your nose. It is only because they remain unquestioned, labeled as facts, that they don't seem to be noticed. What's more, your hidden beliefs, if there are any on a certain subject, come up automatically the moment you choose a new reality. Once you agree to something new, you notice what you have agreed on previously that contradicts that. This grants you the opportunity to review it and let it go or move beyond the prior agreement. Beliefs are nothing more than agreements about how things are. Let's assume you enter a new reality and later that day, an emotionally charged event comes up. That event is the answer to what hidden counterbeliefs do I have to my new reality. It's already being shown to you. You needn't look any further. Why make it complicated when it is so simple? New Age teachings have a conditioning of their own, conditioning people to believe they now have to release, dissolve, or work with, or decreate that counterbelief. But this act alone lends the counter-reality or counterbelief more relevance and importance than you'd be giving it from your new point of view. From your new identity point of view, you'd merely be witnessing it without much of a reaction or interaction because you're the version of yourself in which that belief or event, belief and event are the same thing, is no longer relevant. You needn't hold beliefs like, I don't know, and subconscious or transparent beliefs are limiting me. Best practice is to notice the event or fact as a belief and then return to resting in the ideal version of yourself. The cycle of creation. Let's repeat it again for all to read. Negativity, resistance is there. From this desire arises your business. The desire is delivered, not your business, infinity's business. The desire is received, your business. The cycle in short, your will, infinity's will, your receptivity. The third part, receptivity, is the most challenging for most people in this time and age. You first have a will, but then you must also release your will and become receptive for what you want. All or nothing meditation. 1. Look inside yourself and see a nothingness that contains all potential. 2. Look inside yourself and see the entire creation, including the physical universe. 3. Alternate between the two, not staying at one for more than 30 to 80 seconds. Beyond questions and answers. 1. Take on the viewpoint of someone who has no questions. 2. Take on the viewpoint of someone who has no answers. 3. Take on the viewpoint of a space in which there is no questioner and no answerer. Meditation. Many limiting concepts and definitions on what meditation is and has not have been spread throughout society. That's why this book refers to the practice of meditation as going into silence. The practice of meditation is simply based on the following observations. During practice, your attention is not pan-determined, but self-determined. The inner universe of thought, emotion, and observation gets more attention and importance than the outer universe. This is especially significant as there really is no such thing as an outer universe, except as an illusionary reflection of the inner universe. Because people place such an emphasis on this illusory rim of the whole, meditation becomes necessary. There's nothing out there that can make you happy. It's all in here. On a practical level, relaxation and clarity go hand in hand with concentration, learning, creativity, health, and any other type of success for that matter. Meditation allows a shift from doing to being, from effect to cause. Meditation allows the observation of what you are creating and thus an easier shift to what you desire. The main reason the whole world is not meditating regularly is because they have been deceived on what meditation can really mean and really is. It is not sitting around being bored. It is not sitting around forcing yourself into uncomfortable positions and forcing the futile attempt to stop the mind. Meditation allows for de-identification, which again allows for new identification. New identification is not just a change in attitude or perception, but a complete shift in reality channels. The most basic form of meditation is returning to nothingness by simply letting go, if at all, and doing nothing, or by focusing on one single thing, or by observing the breathing. Once nothingness is enjoyed, you may go for a new somethingness that is the essence of the pure technique. Wishful thinking and honesty. The difference between reality creation and wishful thinking or self-delusion is the former implies desire plus belief, and the latter implies desire plus disbelief, sometimes unnoticed. Lies are a form of disbelief. That means that saying something that has not factually manifested yet is not a lie if you truly feel and believe it, even if others perceive it as a lie. This is somewhat different from society's definition of a lie. This is why it is sometimes better to keep your intended realities to yourself. Honesty means saying what you really feel or believe. The more honest you are, the more your RC powers grow. Why? Because when you know what you really believe, rather than what you think you believe or think you should believe, you not only understand what believing really feels like, but can also shift to a better belief. Not admitting to what it is you truly believe is the height of self-denial and makes proper RC quite impossible. Responsibility converter. In RC, everything is seen just the other way around from what you have been taught. The following technique helps you to put any issue into an RC context. If you want to use it, you choose a problem and the reason you think this problem exists. Then you reverse the statement so that the problem becomes the reason and the reason becomes the problem, adding I want to the reason. Examples of this conversion. I am overweight because I eat too much becomes I eat too much because I want to be overweight. I am lonely because nobody wants me becomes nobody wants me because I want to be lonely. I don't have time for my kids because I am so busy becomes I am so busy because I don't want to have time for my kids. I am afraid because of the economic situation becomes I have an economic situation because I want to be afraid. You can't have everything you want. Let go of the cheap salesman talk of, you can have everything you want. You cannot have everything you want. You can have everything you are willing to be. You cannot have something you don't want to live up to. If you think your life will change without you changing first, you are mistaken. This would be like trying to get something for nothing, which is not how the law of correspondence works. Magical prayer. Before going to sleep, address a higher source, God, infinity, higher self, concerning something you want improvement in, and whisper the following words once, twice, or 3 times. Thank you for showing me that this issue is already solved. The magical prayer is not a pleading and begging, but a thanking. The all that is meditation. Close the eyes and allow attention to be on all that is. Your house, family, neighborhood, city, earth, galaxy, universe, thoughts, feelings, moods, plans, things, etc. Anything that comes to mind when you put your attention on all that is. Immerse yourself in that for a few minutes, experience and observe. Then allow your attention to expand beyond the limits of everything, using your imagination or feeling. Observe as if there were a defining border within everything exists. Within this border is all that is, and outside of this border is the undefined. Once you have that impression, whisper, that is all that is. Then, allow your attention to let go of all of it. Take a deep breathe and release all of it on the out-breath. Now, after a few seconds, start noticing anything that is left and repeat the same process of expansion and inclusion with any impression that is still left. Penetrate it all, go beyond it, let it go. Repeat this a few times until you get the impression that everything is empty and your mind is relatively relaxed. But this relaxedness and emptiness is still something, so repeat the exercise with what is still left. Going beyond blackness and infinite silence, higher and higher. Stop the exercise when you feel on the verge of exploding with happiness. OceanoFPDF.com. 15 domains of existence. Circles within circles. Alls is one. But for a more detailed examination, we can split reality into various domains or spheres of existence or spheres of influence or megaspaces. Beginning with the space of the individual world self, we can define ever-expanded spheres of influence. You may picture these as concentric circles in which each bigger domain contains the smaller one. This means the inner circle will not be too aware of the circle outside of it, but the outside circle will equally be aware of both. 1. Personal domain. The individual person, the identity, and anything that relates to its existence. Body, name, ownership, interests, desires, resistances. This is the realm of the world self. If you define yourself over a body and mind, you're limited to this domain and will only have 100% creative control over this domain. 2. Relationship domain. The interaction between individuals that are close to each other. Friendships, marriages, family, love affairs. Following a linear path of initiation, one would normally first gain control of one's personal domain before gaining creative control of the relationship domain. In short, love yourself before you love others. Gaining control of this domain does not mean controlling others, but your own reactions to these others. 3. Group domain. Many individuals collaborating or associating with each other for group activities. Group goals and group opinions. These are companies, clubs, organizations, religious groups, etc. They are temporary or persistent. A group can develop a momentum that goes beyond that of an individual world self. On a linear path of initiation, one would gain control of this group after one has gained control of relationships. This does not happen by adapting to a group, but by contributing your own strengths to the group and its goals. You can master the group domain as its member or leader. Both is effective. Choose groups that feel good to you, resonate to who you are, appreciate differences within the group, be aware of the group's goals, and contribute to it. 4. Society domain. Large groups of people coexist in similar geographical spaces and form societies. A society consists of many groups and interests. Together, they form a more or less loose national identity. A country or state is a society domain. You master the society domain by being aware of different societies and cultures and appreciating the ones that are different than yours, e.g. traveling, or by influencing the masses, e.g. by mass media. 5. Global domain. A planetary system is a global domain. This contains many societies and everything within a planet's sphere, ecology, nature, matter, species, animals. Our global domain is called Earth. On a linear path, mastering this level would mean appreciating all that is on this planet, acknowledging the identity of the planet itself as a living being and respecting nature. When you start becoming aware of other, higher domains, other worlds and beings, this is an indicator that you either resist the global domain or have mastered it. If you have mastered it, you will start being able to communicate with beings outside of the global domain, aliens. 6. Stellar domain. The stellar domain is that of the star system with its central sun and circling planets within the same space-time the world self occupies. The center of this domain is what we call Sun, and our particular stellar domain contains planets such as Mercury, Mars, Venus, Uranus, Neptune, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and further planets, and all the accompanying moons. Mastering this domain involves expanding awareness to the different planets, the interaction between them, travel to the planets, with or without physical body, awareness of the life cycle of a star, and especially being able to identify with the qualities of each planet. This level is mastered once a being has communicated with beings from other planets within our star system. 7. Galactic domain. Many star systems together form a galaxy, which has its own life cycles. Stars are born and die. Civilizations expand and fall. Our star system is located at the edge of the galaxy we call Milky Way. One has mastered this realm once one can perceive beyond one's own star system and experience other worlds of the galaxy and its inhabitants. 8. Universal domain. Everything existing within the same time-space continuum, operating under the same laws, forms a universe. Our universe contains many galaxies. Even a universe has cycles in which it expands or contracts. Our universe is in the process of expanding, just like our awareness. This domain is mastered when one can expand attention to various galaxies other than our own, or is able to levitate, teleport, or manifest various physical objects out of nothing, or when one can change the laws of space and time. 9. Dimensional domain. There are many different universes, parallel universes, dimensions on various degrees of vibratory frequency. One can travel, explore, experience these multidimensional realities. There are universes in which the laws we know have no meaning. Together, they all form what we could call the omniverse. You have mastered this domain when you're able to astral travel, lucid dream, or create parallel universes on a physical level. 10. Totality domain. The wholeness of all that is, infinity, the creative potential, the expanse, the source. While every other domain is fragmented to some extent, this domain is one and complete. Mastering this level would be true enlightenment. This domain cannot be grasped with tools that were created by it, mind, but can be touched upon in non-conceptual awareness. Normally, the human perspective would be to look at the domains from down to up, seeing oneself as an individual inside a huge universe. In RC, we view it the other way around. We accept ourselves as the biggest domain, infinity, totally, godhood, consciousness, and notice how we focus down or fragment down into ever smaller domains of being, but without ever losing our totality. To only define yourself as the individual world self would then be extremely detailed focus. Limiting yourself in this way is an act of magic which many other beings in other realms believe is impossible. I once described an outer dimensional being what life was like on our planet, and he didn't believe me. He couldn't believe that God could limit himself in such a way that he forgets he is God. But it is possible, and we as humans are doing it. Of course, writing and publishing books like this spoils the party a bit. But the natural perspective is always the inseparable wholeness of all. This wholeness creates various dimensions, in which one can discern one thing from another. Separation or duality is the beginning of every game, the beginning of any dimension. We can stuff this dimension with all kinds of wonderful things. And within this family of things, we can detect or create a galaxy, and within that, star systems. And in order to focus even more sharply, we can detect one single planet. To even perceive any such thing as a planet means to really be pinpointing your focus in ways that are unfathomable for many. And once on this planet, we can create further discernments and separations by creating different groups on different levels in different relationships and so on. And finally, we focus the individual world self and identify with it in order to participate in this world even more intensely. We could continue doing this, fragmenting ourselves even more. There's no limit to it. We could fragment ourselves into body, soul, mind, or we could go even further and fragment the mind, our soul, into subconscious, higher self, lower self. All these fragmentations are, except for research and focus purposes, not necessary and even limiting in many ways. The more you split things up, the more complicated things get, and the further you're going away from the truth of oneness. To at least get a little bit more defragment, view all parts of you as one, without separation. The mind is not your enemy, as many teach. The subconscious is not a separate and incomprehensible part of you that controls you. You're not inside your body is inside you. Once you acknowledge yourself as one, it will be easier to also view the surroundings of your reality as you and other people as your reflections. You can re-identify with them without losing your individuality. The myth of losing individuality is one reason the person forgets oneness. Because the whole contains every individual viewpoint, your individual viewpoint never has to be lost. Showing the domains are a way to get a sense of the bandwidth of consciousness from infinity down to very specific split parts called people. The higher the vibration level of the individual, the more interest it shows in higher domains. Only knowing about them, having found out about them, defixes your attention from rigidity a bit. One's everyday worries are put into perspective. Consider your biggest fear or biggest desire and compare or view it from the perspective of the next more comprehensive domain. Notice how relatively unimportant it now seems. The desire is easier to create, though, when viewed from a perspective beyond it. I can't get no satisfaction. Imagine a bunch of paper coins, pictures of coins on paper. These are two dimensional coins. Imagine someone stacking them up on each other in an attempt to get a real three-dimensional coin. But no matter how many two-dimensional coins he owns, he will never have a three-dimensional one. What does this metaphor mean? It refers to people trying to emulate experiences of the fourth dimension, a higher domain of experience, by amassing things in the third dimension. While 3D experiences such as sex, material gain, and so forth are enjoyable for what they are, they never quite reach the quality of 4D, what we call inner or spiritual experience. Some people believe they only have to amass enough 3D stuff, and they will get a 4D feeling. So they go ahead and sniff cocaine, have as much sex as possible, collect cars and gold, but somehow they can't get no satisfaction. RC suggests another path. It suggests allowing the fourth dimensional feeling to flow through you, by which you become less dependent and needy of three-dimensional stuff, by which it then becomes more accessible. Expanded abilities. By expanding attention to areas previously unfamiliar, aiming higher, you automatically make lesser, closer, or smaller things easier to reach. Reaching for a level 5 type of life will make a level 3 life seem much easier to reach, so to speak. The following section is not meant to put you under pressure or shift your awareness to the unnatural. It is meant to be used playfully and without the underlying need that this has to work, otherwise I am of no value. If none of it works yet, then that is fine. Rest in your natural joy. But once you wish to expand attention, you may want to speculate on the following self-questions. 1. Am I able to communicate with plants? 2. Can I see elves? 3. Can I communicate with alien beings? 4. Can I move objects by mind alone? 5. Can I levitate the body? 6. Can I heal wounds and injuries on the same day? 7. Can I look at past and future lives? 8. Can I travel out of body? 9. Can I practice telepathy? 10. Can I experience sudden miracles? 11. Can I remote view things? 12. Can I access any information I want in the matrix of infinity? 13. Can I stop, reverse, or bend time? 14. Can I sense more than the regular 5 senses show me? 15. Can I experience any other fun phenomena? Speculating on these things without expectation pressure expands the bandwidth of your thoughts. Even without immediate results, it should feel pretty good to even consider them. You could make an exercise of answering each question with a passionate yes, and this is how, or alternatively with a passionate no, and then check what doubts come up to that no. What follows are some hints on each item. Remember that within your imagination lie better answers on how you achieve things than my answers. But you may use my hints to get started. 1. Communication with plants. This one is quite simple. Since you are one with infinity, you can also relate to anything within infinity. If you take a picture of a plant, then take special care of the plant for a week, talking to it, perhaps caressing it, and so on, and then take a picture of a week later and compare the pictures, you will most probably see a difference. 2. Seeing elves, or seeing any other beings for that matter. Alien life forms are not only outside of Earth, but also on Earth, and even in Earth. The reason we don't see them is because we're not tuned in to the corresponding vibratory frequency. The dolphin, for example, is a being quite advanced compared to what we call animal, and can teach us some extraordinary things if we were willing to listen. Elves can be witnessed in green lands and woods that are sparsely populated, and providing you have a corresponding vibratory frequency. You needn't take drugs to see them. In fact, taking drugs undermines, and in long term even cripples your inherent ability to shift vibratory frequencies by yourself. Once identified with the reality of perceiving elves, begin your walk in the woods by noticing what you see out of the corner of your eyes. Elves can be somewhat shy towards humans and rarely expose themselves completely. The only place I've seen elves up to now was in Iceland. The reason for this is probably that the consensus belief in Iceland accepts the reality of elves in their constitution. 3. Communication with alien beings. There are so many different types of beings you can communicate with that you have to choose wisely. What kind of quality do you want to interact with? You will get what you yourself represent the most. However, alien life forms rarely show themselves to you if you don't have a specific good reason for contacting them. They will not show themselves to give you advice on daily things you could be solving yourself. And they will not show themselves to you if your level of fear is too high. If there's a lot of fear involved and you call for otherworldly beings anyway, you may attract events or beings you don't like. That's why it's important to remain pure of heart and intent when making contact. Having read this book, you don't need any further technique to make contact. You merely need definition of what is wanted, attention, and identification. 4. Moving objects by mind alone. This ability is not part of the human consensus reality, but has nevertheless been demonstrated by a few people on this planet. In fact, reality creation is a type of moving objects by mind alone, because when you start resonating with a new reality, the whole universe moves to accommodate that. Wanting to move certain objects that lie before you immediately is somewhat problematic for the following reasons. A. The object could also be moved by hand. Infinity chooses the path of least resistance. And if you can also turn off a light switch with your fingers, what would the purpose be of staring at the light switch for hours? B. The objects in question are often not ones that spark a lot of excitement in the person attempting psychokinesis. Would you rather spend your energy trying to bend a spoon or falling in love with one of your desires? C. The practice itself is often aimed at proving mind over matter, and failing often used to prove to oneself that it doesn't work, when in fact it does work very well. Demanding instant results, however, cuts infinity's efficiency off from manifesting what you put out. Despite these problems, psychokinesis does work with lots of concentration and practice. It involves identifying with an object and then moving as that object, or identifying with someone who can move an object by mind, or identifying with pure energy, seeing self and object as energy, or identifying with energy hands that can do that. In any case, as a popular movie once said, it's not the spoon that bends, it's you. Before going on this adventure, though, ask yourself if it's worth the investment of time and attention, or if you would not rather manifest something you enjoy rather than having to prove something to yourself. 5. Levitating the body. This is an area I am not competent to talk about because I haven't looked into it in this version of my life. But from what we know, we can deduct that it is not too close to consensus human reality and would probably therefore take a lot of practice into identifying from I am the body and identifying either with extremely lightweight or with I am consciousness that lifts the body. 6. Healing wounds or injuries on the same day. Again, RC practices the path of least resistance, and this path most times involves simply going to a hospital or a doctor. There is absolutely no need to label contemporary medicine and doctors as bad, as some of the New Age movement unfortunately does. If they'd stop separating between magic and contemporary medicine and stop invalidating other ways of seeing things, contemporary medicine will become much more open to alternatives. There is no such thing as a wrong way of healing. Whatever works is valid, and what doesn't work for you will work for others. In addition, you may want to try the following technique, though. If you can remember it right after you're injured, which is a challenge in itself, try repeating the same movement that led to the injury, but in a way the movement would have happened if the injury had never happened. So for example, if you cut your hand with a knife, right after that, Move your knife to your hands several times without cutting it, or move it somewhere else several times, as if the movement causing the injury had never happened. This type of quasi-repetition has caused miracles for some and quickened healing for others. 7. Looking at past and future lives. In light of the many worlds model, this is quite easy. Since there is no fixed past or future, you would be looking at the past or future, which corresponds with the version of yourself you are now. So when people go to reincarnation regression therapy or the likes, what they're actually experiencing is not their past lives, but the past life that corresponds to who they're being right now. Viewing any other type of life is merely a matter of definition. What do you want to view? And attention, placing neutral attention in that direction to see what comes up. It can also be done with pure, by simply identifying with a future or past version of yourself. Since you are consciousness, you can identify with anything and experience anything. In RC, you no longer do this in order to find something out that can solve my problems today, but for the pure joy of it. So what about the past of humanity? Is there no fixed past of humanity either? It will come as a disappointment to some, especially people who have invested a lot of time in researching the past. But there is none. There are many versions of the past, depending upon who is looking. What does exist, however, are the most agreed upon consensus or probable pasts of humanity. And within our current consensus, there are not too many different pasts, but indeed events that most people would agree took place. However, what we're taught in school about history in the past is not what most souls, us discarnate, agree took place on our consensus timeline, I may add. The theory of linear evolution and technological progress over thousands of years is even more inaccurate than other models, so to speak. It would be a bit more accurate to say that evolution did not take place as a line that went from bottom, Stone Age, to top, Space Age, but rather as waves or cycles with peaks and lows. This means that, yes, of course we had high technology and extraterrestrial and interdimensional contact in ancient times. Any half-aware being can easily detect that. 8. Traveling out of body. One aspect of you travels out of body once the other aspect falls asleep every night. The aim here is therefore not astral projection, but consciously remembering your out-of-body travels, remaining aware enough to take part in them. This is very paradox because falling asleep involves losing awareness. Out-of-body experiences means to fall asleep while keeping awareness. This is why the OOB always involves very, very, very deep relaxation of body and mind, without falling asleep or while keeping one part of yourself awake and aware. If you can do that without disturbing your sleep cycle, you will have a few great experiences outside of body. The out-of-body experience is different from imagination or dreaming in that you have a very clear sense of traveling around and perceiving things outside of your body. It may begin with imagination, projecting a double of yourself that flies and walks around out of body, but soon turns into something different than what imagination feels like. 9. Using telepathy. Just like a few other abilities mentioned here, this doesn't really have to be practiced because it is a natural side effect of your awareness expanding. What is involved here is empathy. If you feel connected to something or someone, you know everything about it without having to think much about it. Practicing telepathy as a strategy to find out secrets of others is actually contradictory to the ability itself because it presupposes many limiting things. That you are separate, that the other person harbors secrets which, if you don't find them out, might be to your disadvantage, and so on. When empathically connected to someone, you pick up all the signals of that person, sometimes even specific thought bites, without having to control the process of telepathy or follow some hidden agenda. Telepathy is natural to you. Trying to control or strategize, it presupposes that it is not. If you want to know something about another person, either simply ask the person or feel the person, identify with the person in empathy. It's as simple as that. 10. Experiencing sudden miracles. If you label miracles and magic as strange and unbelievable all the time, you are separating yourself from more of those experiences. Accepting that miracles are the norm rather than the exception will quicken your experiences of them. 11. Remote viewing things. Despite all the programs, workshops, and trainings offered on this subject. You can learn this easily by yourself. Become silent, relax in a neutral attention. Now, look at some wall or barrier you can't see behind with your eyes. Now, move attention through that wall to the other side and remain there without expectation or intentional imagining. See what images pop up by themselves. Then walk behind the wall and compare your extrasensory perceptions with what is really there. This is one way remote viewing can be exercised. Define something you want to find out on this planet. Now put your attention there or at a mental representation of the place you want to find out about. But remain neutral and without expectation or too much imagination. Wait for what flashes up. If possible, corroborate your extrasensory perception with what is actually there in this time-space. It may take some practice to get accurate results, but it's really no more complicated than that. Attention has no limits. 12. Accessing all information. This too is relatively simple, and there are many different ways to do it. You can ask questions to infinity or an imaginary representation of higher self and allow answers. Or you can simply ask yourself in written form and answer your own questions in a state of silence. Or you can identify with the version of yourself who does know a certain piece of information. Actually, the tools of attention and identification can be used for anything. An example: if you think there is something you don't know, then there is always a version of yourself that does know. Enter that version, enjoy it, then let go. The answer will pop up soon, not because you are waiting on it, but because you can feel it. 13. Stopping, reversing, and bending time. Some of this is already discussed in the chapter on time. You will not be able to do anything that does not conform to your beliefs about time. Once you do loosen your definitions of what time is, what reality is, how things are in general, you will automatically experience an increase of anomalous experiences with time. 14. Sensing more than the regular 5 senses show. There is not only a sixth sense, but a few other senses that the physical human being has. So even within physical boundaries, there are yet a few new things to discover. One specific sense that has not yet been discovered by consensus reality science is the sense space orientation. This sense is located in the sinus region of the body and is your sense of orientation or location related to other locations. Some will argue that space orientation is created by the senses seeing and hearing, but it is not. Were it not for our space orientation, we would be seeing everything in the same space or one-dimensionally. Another sense is sensing itself. This sense can be called feeling, but not in the tactile meaning of touching something, but of sensing something. It is a sense that both animals and humans have. Examples: people sense when they're being stared at from behind, even from a distance. Humans, and to a greater extent animals, can sense when some disaster is impending. Some people wake up before their alarm clock rings because they pre-sense it. Some can sense the intentions of others. This sense has been called inner knowing or intuition. Often this sense delivers more accurate information than the other 5 senses. Unfortunately, society hasn't paid much attention to it yet. 15. Experiencing other fun phenomena. This was not a comprehensive list. There are many other interesting things one can explore or practice. The sensing ability discussed in the last point could be transferred to things like remote sensing or energy sensing. The body itself offers many other miracles which have not been discovered yet, or have only been noticed by fringe groups such as martial arts experts or long-time healing practitioners. The amount of experience and knowledge to be gained in lucid dreaming at night could fill many books. Alone and experimenting with the pure technique of silent, non-reactive infinity, identification and joy, and then releasing can offer many thousands of years of enjoyable journeys. OceanoFPDF.com. 16 Movies of Life. The whole movie making and movie watching process offers a near-perfect analogy of how consciousness, reality, and life work. The only difference is that a movie is experienced on a 2-dimensional, flat screen, while life is experienced on a 3-dimensional screen. All other aspects are so identical that one could speculate that movie making and movie watching is a physical reality emulation or copy of what a soul does or of how life works. The circumstances of life seem to have a built-in solidity which seduces you into assigning persistence and continuity to them. The same illusion is presented as the continuity of an ongoing film. Movie characters, action, and scenery seem to be moving on the screen in linear continuity because the human eye is unable to perceive the different frames of which it consists. Movie, projector, and screen are designed to trick the eye into believing in a continuous process by moving pictures faster than it can see. This illusion creates the very real experience of emotion and entertainment. Attention becomes immersed in the illusion in order to enjoy it. If it were sitting in the cinema in a de-identified state, thinking, well, it's not real, it's all an illusion, it couldn't really have any fun. But one look at behind the scenes or the underlying structure of it all, and the illusion is unmasked. Unmasking it is not preferable for enjoyable scenes, but might be preferable for scenes you don't enjoy. Maybe you've noticed how, when there's a movie scene you really enjoy, you focus all of your attention into the scenery. While when there's a movie scene you don't like, you tend to defocus and remain aware of all other things that exist, the room you are in, the cinema complex, friends, whatever. Once you do this, the emotion connected to the movie fades. Physical reality, or the three-dimensional movie, causes the same illusion of continuity that makes it all seem so very serious and real. While watching the dramatic action of the movie, you don't even want to be aware of the whole background setup, because that would spoil your identification equals enjoyment with the movie. You don't want to know about how every single scene was shot separately, maybe even on separate days, and how some assistant responsible for film continuity made sure that the objects were put in the same places as the shooting day before. You don't want to walk up very close to the movie screen and say, "Hey, look, this picture consists of a bunch of dots, not of real humans and objects." So not even the picture itself is a real picture, but rather a collection of dots which are interpreted as a picture. And the dots themselves consist of yet smaller dots, which again consist of waveforms. Of course, from the viewpoint of the intending observer, the picture is there because he wants it to be there, because it entertains him. He unquestioningly takes it as real. Questioning the whole thing would spoil the fun, but also reveal what's going on behind the scenes. A closer look on anything makes it dissolve and reveal a structurally deeper reality with different characteristics. And you can do that with any reality. You can zoom in or zoom out on anything. The words real and illusion, as they are used here, don't really refer to metaphysical absolutes, as some try to teach, but to domains or orders of reality. The moving pictures on the screen are real from the viewpoint of the immediate, immersed experience. Looking beyond the obvious to a deeper order, we see it's the film projector, cinema owner, etc., creating the movie. The only thing really moving is the projector, the wannabe enlightened master might say. But looking at an even deeper level, we may find that there are film directors and film producers and actors behind it all. It's a lie. Producers are behind it, the wannabe conspiracy theorist might weigh. Or we can zoom in even deeper and see the projector as an illusion that is made up of particles. So what's real depends on the viewpoint and what one wants to experience. And when watching a movie, I certainly don't want to focus on the projector or the inner machinations of TV set, but on the colorful creation that it is projecting. Understanding that everything is real and illusion. Depending on the viewpoint, you could trade unfavorable illusions for more favorable ones. The analogy continues. Just like the image on the screen, physical reality is a projection, but onto a three-dimensional screen. Objects and circumstances may seem consistent and solid when you are immersed in them. When you are identified that way, they seem very convincing and hard to change or move. But actually, they're not hard to move. You just don't want them to change, just like the movie lover does not want to become aware of anything other than the projected movie. And what's especially significant, the circumstances seem to be independent of the stream of consciousness that creates them, just like the movie seems to be independent of the light stream coming from the projector. That is, you don't notice the light stream, you notice the picture. You'd only notice the light beam if you were to look upwards. In the dark space of the cinema, infinity, a light beam, consciousness, belief, intention, is used to shoot still pictures, thoughts, at high speed at a screen, space-time, physical reality, which creates a virtual world of movement, drama, mood. The more tragedy involved, the more many enjoy it. Most of the time, you don't notice this because you are part of the movie. In playing a role in a movie, you forget that the film was originally written, directed, produced, and projected by you. The movie analogy is to help you, the reader, remember that what you term reality is much less persistent, solid, and real as it may seem. This will keep you out of trouble, unless it's trouble you want. One problem with this knowledge is that it de-identifies people with the world just a bit, de-identifies them with regard to their desires too. This is why RC teaches both de-identification, but also identification, loosing yourself in a reality to the extent of not even knowing things such as the movie analogy. By reacting to events, you assign them the label of independent of the observer, and thus become effect rather than cause. Desirable realities are the only realities you want this to happen with. Even questions such as, why do I have this problem, presupposes that an event is taking place independently of the observer, as if the movie on the screen were independent of the projector. You do enjoy movies, but would you take them so seriously as to become upset about them? The screen reflects only what you project, nothing else. The events are so much more elastic, bendable, fluid than is assumed. Believing in its fluidity will conform its fluidity. Under the hypnotic spell of the movie, you sometimes think that solidity and unchangingness is an inherent quality of the events and get hooked to them. This gives you the illusion of security, comfort, and familiarity, but on the other hand, leaves little space for new things to happen. If you knew how quickly things could really change, you'd probably be shocked. A complete and total shift of everything can occur within a few days, even hours or minutes. All you have to do is shift the intention, projection, belief that is being beamed into the world moment by moment and incarnate as a new self. Don't change the screen. Change the role of film. The belief in the authority of time, space, and events, no matter how convincing, can be deconstructed and replaced with the authority of imagination and thus by a deeper, happier vibratory wavelength. This happens naturally when you slow down the movie frames of reality, relax, enough so that you can discern them and the emptiness or expansiveness between them. This is why the practice of some sort of meditation or silence is actually a prerequisite to RC. Some meditation systems offered nowadays seem to have forgotten or been misguided as to what meditation is all about and especially how it connects to RC. We see many people copying Eastern meditation practice, sitting around for years in silence, without using this beautiful stillness and expansiveness for reality creation. This is like owning a gold mine without knowing the gold has a value. In meditation, you experience the open consciousness that naturally identifies with infinity beyond all created realities. While it is the easiest way to experience the eternal lightness, it is also the best place from which to identify with a new self living in a new parallel reality. A shift in reality always involves a shift from what seems absolutely real, or the way things are, to the realization that this truth is only a belief you're choosing right now. Remember a time you had the realization that things weren't really the way you thought they were, but just the way you thought they were. Take a break from reading to recall a moment like that. It is in these moments that the power of consciousness to make a belief seem real is grasped. The belief makes reality, and the reality again confirms the belief. These are rare, wonderful, and magical moments. And as an author, it is my desire that the reader has many such moments. You see, it's true. I am perceiving it. I told you so. It's a fact. That's why it's true. There it is. Statements like these are quite humorous when you have learned about belief projecting these realities in the first place. Nobody is doubting your experiences. It's just that there's a certain inner reason you are experiencing something. You believe, intend, something. This intention is projected into the world of facts. You get lost in the projection. You become the projection, and soon you view it as cause or source, and one day you, hopefully, reawaken and take the intention back by realizing it was always you that projected it. And then you shift into a new intention. Rest in it and allow it. and so forth. The movie of consciousness and its plethora of beauty never ends. Releasing persistent realities. In rare cases, it will seem as if a reality will not shift despite your conscious creation practice. Best practice is not to focus on solving the unwanted reality, but identifying with the one who is already experiencing what you want, and then releasing the rest to infinity. This practice is recommended above all other practices. In rare cases, it will seem as if this doesn't create the shift. In this exceptional and again, very rare case, you may use the following procedure. If it is a medical issue, e.g. alcoholism, you're wanting to release, don't use this as a substitute for contemporary medical procedures, but as a supplement. There never really is a reality you are stuck in forever. It could change extremely rapidly within minutes, rapidly within hours, or fairly rapidly within days. But we will assume there is such a thing as a persistent reality, and we will assume that it takes a bit more to release it. If that is the belief you insist on, we will accommodate that belief with a more elaborate process. How will you know when you're releasing a persistent reality? It will move on a scale from 1, healed, to 10, chronic. Relief is an indicator. Certain events don't pop up automatically anymore, or as intensely as they used to. For way association, choose a persistent reality that seems not to be releasing. Answer a few questions about this reality by filling in the persistent reality in the empty space. 1. What does underscore give you? What benefits do you get by it? How does it serve you? What does it protect you from if you keep it? 2. What disadvantages would it have to release underscore or do without it or be free from it? What bad thing happens if you quit focusing, thinking, feeling, or doing it? 3. What becomes worse? What would releasing underscore give you? Which benefits would that have? Which new life quality and feeling would you have? What's in it for you? 5. What disadvantages would not releasing underscore have? How would not releasing it limit you? In which way would your situation further deteriorate if you were not to release it, if you were to keep holding on to it? Give at least 5 answers to each. There are at least 4 possible associations possible to any issue. 1. Issue equals good. 2. Releasing issue equals bad. 3. Releasing issue equals good. 4. Issue equals bad. Without any RC knowledge, people overcome an issue because they wittingly or unwittingly shift their associations from 1 and 2 to 3 and 4. To find more reasons why 3 and 4 are true. The benefits of release become so strong, or the pain of non-release so strong that they decide to change. As soon as it's more pleasant to release it than to hold on to it, on a sub-aware level, change occurs. This is the reason many find it easier to stop smoking when they really have to because the body would otherwise die. This is some of the background information on what goes on. Viewed statistically, many people don't ever really overcome a persistent reality at all. There are plenty of people that have tried everything, only to find themselves further immersed in the undesired issue. And statistics alone is a good reason to actually find yourself able to release a persistent reality, because it immediately transports you into the realm of the wizard that made this statistically impossible come true, and you survive to tell others and will be an inspiration to the world. Wouldn't you love to prove to yourself that you are really capable of it when it really counts? If you could release that, what other things must you be capable of? Releasing a tough, persistent reality has enormous consequences on your consciousness and life henceforth. It makes it so much easier to believe, I am the creator. Mixing up the mind. Before entering the next state of the process, the stage in which we mix up your habitual associations to the issue, it is important that you love and accept yourself with the issue and absolutely stop invalidating and criticizing yourself for it. Labeling the issue as wrong or shameful is the first major block to releasing it. The process: fill in the empty space with the issue. 1. create intense desire. 4 underscore 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 thinking slash feeling. 2. Create intense desire. 4 underscore 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 speaking. 3. Create intense desire. 4 underscore 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 action. 4. Create intense resistance towards underscore 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 thinking slash feeling. 5. Create intense resistance towards underscore 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 speaking. 6. Create intense resistance towards underscore 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 action. 7. Create neutrality about underscore 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 thinking slash feeling. 8. Create neutrality about underscore underscore speaking. 9. Create neutrality about underscore 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 action. Repeat steps 1 to 9 until you start enjoying each and every step. Example: alcoholism. 1 to 3, I create intense desire for alcohol by thinking about how refreshing, soothing, delicious it is. I daydream about beer and wine and liquor with devotion and passion. I associate beautiful experiences with it: flirt, sex, relaxation, laughter. I say yes, give me more and more. Bring it on. Come on. I need it right away. I want to be flooded by it. I am drunk with happiness. I'm a real man when I drink. Gotta have a beer. Gotta have another martini. Come on. I act out craving for beer, running to the fridge and gulping down a whole bottle in one go, pouring it all over me, sucking on it, licking it, exaggerating it. 4 to 6, I create intense resistance towards alcohol. I imagine a series of gross out images connected to alcohol: disgust, resistance, fear, anger towards it. Imagine myself as a homeless bum, drinking so much I vomit all over myself. Get dizzy and fall on the concrete, busting my head. Beer and sadness, beer and fear, wine and stupidity, brandy and a wrinkled and drooling face. Hanging out at the train station with your buddies, smelly restrooms. A cockroach climbing out of the bottle. Fantasize until you feel a retching urge to vomit. Say things like beer makes me sick and stupid. It is the cancer of my soul. I've lost my life with alcohol. I'm a loser sleeping in station toilets. I reek of booze. I become violent toward ladies. I will spend time in prison. Take a wine bottle and imagine the wine inside is foul. Drink from it anyway and try to feel really sick doing it. 7 to 9, create neutrality towards it. See alcohol as alcohol, liquor simply as liquor, and so on. Alcohol is simply a drink, a popular one at that. A bottle is simply a bottle, neither good nor bad. Some like it, some don't. Drinking alcoholic beverages is fine. Not drinking them is fine too. It's just a drink. Take a bottle and observe it without opinion, judgment, passion, resistance, craving, or anything else. It's simply a bottle that contains a fluid. Open it. Smell it. Take a sip without all the associations you normally link to it. Put the bottle back. Maybe you'll have some more later, maybe not. It's no big deal. This was an example referring to alcohol, but you may do it with any other issue termed persistent reality. The process is repeated until you feel no more interest in the issue either way. Once you've lost interest, the issue no longer controls you. You could drop it. The process neutralizes fixed energy and ambivalence to a topic. It's ambivalence that often keeps a reality in place. You go through all the variations: craving, resistance, and neutrality. No matter if you're aware of them or not, you do have all three flows toward topic. Enjoy all three roles. Not enjoying one of the modes indicates protective walls built around the issue. First, you crave the issue like nothing in the world. Then you resist it like nothing in the world, and then you observe it neutrally. The first two are exaggerated. Useful questions when handling persistent realities. If you were to release this reality, which other construct that you're trying to uphold would be disturbed? What do you have to protect yourself from? Do you think you need something else? What? Movie scene intending. If you like the idea, your whole day can be viewed as consisting of various scenes or segments. What are the benefits of seeing your day this way? Well, you can take a time out between segments and form specific intentions for specific segments or scenes, which differ from your intentions and creations for the overall movie. A basic cause of automatism and hypnotic trance unawareness in daily life is that you move from scene to scene and segment to segment without taking any timeouts in between, without putting the movie on hold, and thus without consciously intending what you want for the next scene. It doesn't even occur to most people that they can actually intend how they want to experience taking their shower in the morning or driving their car to work. They're moved from one scene to another without conscious thought. They drag issues from work home and issues from home to work. The pure practice is the most powerful practice featured in this book. Movie scene intending is the second most powerful practice. It consists of taking many small timeouts during the day to take a breathe, to take stock of what's going on, and to define specific intentions for the next scene. When a telephone rings, one might normally slip into reactive mode and jump for the phone without further thought. In movie scene intending or segment intending, one would pause and think about the intention for that conversation. One would have many little mini intentions. Even if they don't immediately fulfill, and according to RC, you ought not expect them to immediately manifest. Your experience of the singular segments or scenes will be radically different than if you didn't intend much of anything. But even more important than deliberate intending is to take a time out between scenes rather than being dragged along the movie as a reactive and unaware being. You do have different intentions for driving your car than you do for meeting your spouse anyway. By movie scene intending, you can become more aware of what these intentions are. If your car driving intention is it's going to be hot and sticky and there might be a damn traffic jam, you can become aware of that and intend something better. Roads will be free and driving will relax me. And with a little practice, the field of infinity will start responding to your many intentions more and more. You're not forced to experience everything in the same way every day. Spaces, infinity, and everyday life basically consist of spaces, another word for what we just called movie scenes or segments, which you enter and leave. You are in a certain room, a certain scenario, a certain building, or outside of a certain building. Think about it. What are the spaces you have entered today? How many did you enter? I was in the following spaces today: bedroom, bathroom, living room, street in front of the house, car, city, hotel, seminar room, restroom, terrace of seminar room, street in front of hotel, basement of hotel, seminar room, city, street in front of house, living room, bathroom, office, bathroom, bedroom. The spaces you enter are the movie sets. To see them as movie sets and to become aware of them, and especially the in-between times before you go from one space to the next, allows you to intend certain realities per space. It allows you to take timeouts in between spaces in order to determine which space will even be the next. And it allows you to determine which identities you are creating. Every space corresponds to an observing identity, a collection of beliefs, emotions, behaviors. Example: you feel and behave differently in the privacy of a restroom than in front of customers. Notice the identity shift occur when you enter a restroom. In fact, people with too many approval identities will experience major shifts of mood when entering the privacy of a restroom. Free from all the masks they have to wear in front of others, they finally relax. In knowing this, you'll be able to practice the same relaxedness in front of others. Compare your being in the bedroom with your being at the office at work, and you find out a lot about yourself. And you not only find out where you feel better and where not, but also how you can feel better at any location. If you're looking for synchronicities, meaning messages and hints infinity is sending you, take a closer look at the space you are in. If the spaces you are in frequently change, this reflects a consciousness that likes to move, flow, and change. An awareness of spaces will also improve your choice of spaces or the aesthetics you place in those spaces you frequently reside in. The concept of space and environment is a vital part of the time-space dimension and game you're playing on this planet. The physical time-space realm is a huge realm within which many smaller spaces are contained, in which yet even smaller spaces are contained, in which smaller spaces are contained, just like a Russian doll box. This dimension has some universes. Within the universes, there are galaxies. Within the galaxies, there are star systems. Within the star systems are planets. Within the planets are continents. Within the continents, there are natural and artificial spaces, countries. Within the countries are cities. Within the cities, parts of town. Within the parts of town, buildings. Within the buildings, rooms. Any of these are simply spaces, atmospheres, or backgrounds to your experience. They are all creations that are defined, bordered, limited, and are located somewhere and not elsewhere. Every room is a little galaxy, a reality for itself. Everything, even thoughts and events, are limited spatially or in time. Everything has borders/limits. Notice the borders of things because then you notice the thing that has no borders or limits. Consciousness/awareness/attention. All three are actually one and the same thing. What actually goes on at creating reality is, one creates a space, for example, a three-dimensional space. Projects that space, makes a little universe with limits and content rendering it different from other creations. Then oneself enters the space and experiences it. When one is finished, one leaves the room and resides in infinity or creates another room to be experienced. Unfortunately, some enter a space and then become attached to it and immersed in it to the extent that they forget a reality or context outside of the space. Some forget that they even created the room. In this case, they remain stuck in the space, stuck in the reality. If they start resisting or fighting, they become even more attached to it, more convinced of the only realityness of the room. Some do remember that they are able to create, but they only create within the limited context of the space they are in. That's like creating a room inside a room. The new room will not be allowed to be bigger than the current one. This is what happens when someone creates a new viewpoint/reality without being willing to release the old ones that oppose it. If you do want to release a reality, notice by what it is bordered/limited, where it is and where it is not, when it is and when it is not. It's difficult to release things of which you say things like always, everywhere, never, etc., since there is no such thing as an unlimited creation, because only infinity, the creator, is unlimited. Such words and absolutisms don't really have merit. The only unlimited thing is the thing which perceives all the limited things, consciousness. To create reality, all you have to do is enter a space, identify with it, get into vibratory resonance with it, synchronize with it. In other words, if you want to create a reality, you have to limit yourself. Maybe you haven't seen it this way yet, but reality creation equals limitation, limitation to what you want. You limit yourself to a certain focus, a certain way of seeing things, and this filters out everything that doesn't match that. In other words, positive realities are created the same way negative realities are created. You enter one room by leaving another. It's difficult to enter a new room if you are not willing to leave the old one. You may be able to take some of the furniture with you and even the paintings on the wall, but not the entire room. That's why reality creation begins with silence, stillness, emptiness. Not being in any room at all implies that it is very easy to enter a new one. If you have collected too many rooms, identities, during your life, you'll have to let go of some of them before anything new can happen. Do not try to create a new room at the same place the old room is, switching back and forth between the new and old focus. It is possible, but creates lots of destroyed walls. OceanoFPDF.com. 17 Life Topics and Miscellaneous. The first draft of this book consisted of roughly 1,500 pages of material for my reality creation coaching. The challenge was not writing it, but cutting it down to a normal book format. This chapter will contain some comments on the regular life topics of money, relationship, health, sex, politics, and so on, but also add short paragraph versions of longer elaborations of the first draft. Money. Once you have purified yourself on the topic of money, there's actually nothing left to say. Once properly identified with the already existing version of yourself who is wealthy, you don't think about money every day because you have it. You make more out of what you already have and will thus get more and more with less and less effort. You will joyfully do more than what you are paid for, which is why you will soon find yourself getting paid more than for what you did. You will no longer be needing, craving, grabbing, grasping, and gasping for money. It will no longer be your God. Instead, you will have married money and have formed a good relationship of loyalty and mutual trust with it. You will enjoy giving and receiving money. None of the two sides will cause any reluctance in you. You will understand that true gratitude for money attracts money, but only if gratitude is not used as some strategy to get money. The necessity to lie or cheat vanishes, and the attitude of postponing the paying of bills decreases. You will understand that trying to get something for nothing is not the stance of a spiritual or magical being, as some believe, but the view of a criminal. You will understand that wealth and abundance is not only and not even mainly money itself, but material objects, signed papers, resources, and connections. Therefore, you will stop insisting that money only come in the form of banknotes or numbers on an account. Furthermore, you will learn how it is much wiser to focus your attention and desires on what you want to do or have with the money rather than the amount or dollar bills themselves. You will learn that money flows naturally as a side effect of doing the jobs and services you enjoy the very most. As such, money isn't even the important topic anymore. You are an utterly abundant being and can attract anything you want, so why bother with money anyway? And finally, you will understand that ultimately, it is not money you want, but a feeling of comfort and security. And by bringing that feeling into the today and placing before the outside circumstance of money, you will attract money easily. Relationships. The most important thing to know is that yes, you can manifest the partner you want, provided you are willing to be what this manifestation requires of you. Any type of imagined requirement for that can be identified with flirtation skills, looks, vibes, and so on. The type of partner you attract says a lot about who you are. The partner is the best opportunity to learn more about yourself. While physical reality is a mirror, the partner is the deepest mirror. Become honest on what you are able to attract on your current level of energy. Notice a woman/man that you wouldn't like who wouldn't like you either. Notice a woman/man you would like who wouldn't like you though. Notice a woman/man you wouldn't like who would like you though. You can forget about all these categories unless you change your vibratory energy. Now, notice a woman/man who you would like you too. That's the way to go. The number one solution to any relationship problem is assuming that everything your partner says is absolutely right. No buts about it, period, from her/his perspective she is. You will solve any relationship issue by no longer looking at what kind of energy he or she is flowing towards you, but rather at what kind of energy you are flowing towards him/her. This means you're not responsible for him, her, but toward him, her. You do not have to go into pain when he/she goes into pain, for this will not help him/her at all. When you have no energy resources of your own, you have nothing to give anyway. You don't look at what he/she is creating, but what you are creating. Much more could be said on the issue, but only take this one principle to heart, and you will have no relationship issue. Health. Consciousness is the cause of health, not the other way around. If you say, I feel bad because I am overweight, you are defining overweight as the cause of the feeling. In reality, the feeling is the cause of the overweight. Change who you are and how you feel, and your body will change. How radically an identity shift changes reality and even more the body can be seen in several case studies and research on people with multiple personality disorder. When such people shift identity, they have been reported to lose 20 pounds within a week, make scars on their face suddenly disappear, and even grow back amputated arms. It's all well researched and documented. Nevertheless, science calls it a riddle and an illness. These so-called miracles occur because of the identity shift into a parallel reality. Consciousness as cause of health may take one of the following variations or others. The placebo effect. This is the belief of a person in a therapy, a medicine, or the doctor, or whatever. The rituals undertaken, the pills given, or the authority of the doctor serve as anchors to make it easier to believe. It is an established truth that there are no substances or methods which operate completely independently of one's belief in them. Unfortunately, scientists have trivialized the infinite power of consciousness by calling it by the name of placebo effect, as if it were some curious novelty item. The justification effect. Someone who invests a lot of time, effort, attention, and money in a healing will often unwittingly justify that by becoming healthy. What is invested is what comes back. What's amusing is that it doesn't seem to matter what one invests all this time, money, and attention in, as long as it's done with the belief that it will work. The justification effect is a variation on the placebo effect, the self-regenerative nature of the body. The body has a natural and automatic tendency to heal itself. Nowadays, this natural process is often disturbed by all kinds of efforts on the side of people. In these cases, healing occurs despite these efforts, not because of them. Quickies for vibratory highs. There's many ways people raise their energy or get high without drugs. Some study metaphysical high arts, such as lucid dreaming, breathing technique, overtoned chanting, shamanic massage, dancing, or flotation tanks. Others practice sports, learn scuba diving, or love to flirt with people of the preferred sex. All of these and many other practices are certain ways to raise your overall vibratory tone. But what if you don't want to create the time needed to practice all these arts? What follows are some quickies for in-between times: cafe, elevator, car, work break, etc. Choose whichever you like. They will all raise your vibratory tone level. Perceive something distant and breathe in. Perceive something near and breathe out. Continue for a minute or a few until the mind is calmer or sense of orientation feels more steady. Locate the part of your brain called the amygdala. Use internet resources to find out the location. Basically, if you put your thumbs into your ears and lay your middle fingers on your eyes' edges, where your index finger now naturally rests is the location of the amygdala, which extend from the head center to both sides. Imagine caressing the amygdala with a feather, softly and gently, until you feel an obvious shift in energy. Breathe in deeply into the abdomen or stomach. Hold the breathe for a few seconds. Breathe out very softly and slowly. Repeat until you notice an obvious shift in energy and awareness. Start speculating on the good, wonderful, and nice by beginning every sentence with "wouldn't it be nice if?" Express many realities you would enjoy, without expectation that they have to fulfill. Copy thoughts. Copy each, though, that comes up. Think the same thought again intentionally, no matter what it is. Continue until you feel a new awareness or energy. List a problem. Now turn the problem statement into a question which, if answered, would be the solution. Turn it into a question you can easily answer. Then answer it. These are only a few of several hundred, no several thousands of ways I and others quickly changed mood or outlook. You may want to invent some of your own. Politics. Frankly, the realities that politics are creating don't have to have anything to do with the reality you are creating. You create and attract into your life what you vibrate with. The rest of the world could be experiencing turmoil and strife, and you could still be living a life of health, happiness, connectedness, love, and creativity. It is only when you assign politicians power over your life, for example, by fearing their policies or believing in their influence over you, that they create your reality for you. If a totalitarian government suddenly came into place in your country, you'd be long gone to another region, having been prompted by your vibratory alignment with something else. For your personal destiny, it does not matter who is in power and who is not. This said, it can be added that there are huge differences in government style, and there are more enlightened and more unenlightened governments. Most governments, no matter if left-wing or right-wing, are based on extreme polarization and seeking out things to fear and enemies with which to justify their existence. They play a game of we are right, they are wrong. Whenever you see this game being played out, you know you are dealing with an unenlightened government. But these governments are merely a reflection of the level of idiocy still present in mass consciousness. Their governments are a reflection of us. Once we change, our rulers will change. Whenever you see the game of we are right, they are wrong playing out, don't fall for it. One side will do everything to convince you of their rightness, and the other side will do the same. In actuality, they're both two sides of the same coin, both part of the problem. As Gandhi said, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. If you wish to become an activist of any sort, do not become an activist against something you don't like, but for something you do like. This channels attention and energy in the appropriate direction. So rather than rallying against war or fighting against perceived enemies, you might be rallying for peace or with the groups you do like. Fighting against will always cause adverse reactions in the perceived enemy you are fighting against. With resistance, you reinforce the reality of the enemy. You make the enemy stronger. People will keep saying, don't look away from problems. Don't put your head in the sand, not knowing that it's exactly this attention and mass interest that keeps the issue alive. There is only one rare exception to this. When a social organism has reached an extreme low point beyond the ability to self-repair, which is what it does when it is left alone, which is what it does when you look away, then, from an earthly viewpoint, forceful attack may be viable. This is similar to awakening a child out of apathy. But again, this is extremely rare. It is safe to say that 90% of all wars waged on this planet are utterly unnecessary and unjustified. Worth mentioning, though, is that this planet is not as war-loving or bad as it may seem, neither spiritually nor even statistically or factually. There has been no time on this planet we can remember in which more than 5%, or 10% to 15% in the world wars, of the Earth has been involved in war. In a reflection of the preferred negative focus of humans, the mass media likes to focus on the 5% that are not okay and ignore, trivialize, and filter out the 95% that are okay. Watching the so-called news makes it seem as if war and suffering were a large part of existence on this planet. In actuality, most of this planet are completely peaceful and beautiful at most times. Interestingly, what one focuses on grows. But no matter how intensely the media focuses in on suffering, the positive sides of the world always outnumber the negatives by far. This may seem like new information for you, but it is completely factual. If you respond emotionally to this or get angry by these facts, you have been brainwashed into believing the world to be a bad place, conditioned into a victim mentality. Believe it or not, there is no such thing as overpopulation either. Most parts of the planet are still totally uninhabited, and not only barren lands, as some claim. Furthermore, there is no shortage of resources whatsoever. All one has to do is line up with abundance, vibrationally, and resources that are already there flow in. And if one or a group or a whole country choose not to line up to abundance, that is their free choice, and deep within, they know it. It is not your job to try to teach them otherwise. They know what they are creating. This is why some countries will stay poor no matter how many funds and support are flowed to them. If anything be done at all in such countries, then it ought to be done on an educational level, as consciousness is the source of reality. A short note on conspiracy theories. The worldview commonly known as conspiracy theory, according to which secret rulers and hidden agendas are duping the masses, is in some senses and cases accurate, and in even some senses and cases inaccurate. In general, the mix of higher awareness, reading between the lines, being aware of more, and a low-state victim attitude creates the conspiracy theorist. While noticing more of what's going on and being skeptical of spoon-fed knowledge and social conditioning, the conspiracy theorist also tends to blame outside sources for evil. Rarely do such people report of positive conspiracies to the benefit of humankind, although they take place all the time. So while there's much more going on than most are being told and than what many of us can see, it is not all negative or evil. And if you harbor no fear or hatred within, it couldn't harm you anyway. Again, there is no enemy, unless you believe there is. This does not mean that one should stop looking for secrets or looking to uncover them. Being unaware of what is going on behind the scenes or not being interested in it at all is one way you can be manipulated. But once you do find out what is going on behind the scenes, you needn't take this as a personal threat to your survival. Simply by having opened the curtain, you have weakened the conspirators to an extent that they can no longer upkeep their charade. The biggest secret that they don't want you to know: they cannot harm you when you harbor no fear. This is why some organizations write books against themselves, displaying themselves as an evil, all-powerful organization to be feared. The last statement may come as a surprise to many readers, but it is a practice being done by a few. The benefits of publishing an anti-view against oneself is twofold. First of all, the organization then controls its opposition to some extent, being able to manipulate how far the opposition goes, and secondly, fear towards the organization is built, thus allowing for more control. Religion. If there is anything that could be termed conspiracy in human histories, then it's religion. Religion is used to condition people to an extremely limited view of reality. By introducing a few happy, workable, and inspiring tools, followers are collected and seduced to believing the rest of the nonsense as well. Religions prey on the human being's desire to reconnect to Source. Since the human knows no better connection to Source, he will rest on religion. Of course, religion is not categorically bad. Depending upon the vibratory tone of the person interpreting and delivering it, it can also have positive effects. But in general, any installation of belief system diverts attention from the nature of belief systems themselves. Most religions are fear-based, meaning punishment is predicted to those who disbelieve. This is the case in all major world religions. Religious representatives who reinterpret religions to love-based teachings will have a positive effect on people, not because of the teachings, but in spite of them. Furthermore, most religions are originally based on a misinterpretation of extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional phenomena. From an extremely low point of view, linearly speaking, witnessing one's very own higher self or some extraterrestrial being flying around will be labeled as some god one has to bow down to in fear. Future generations will develop religions, philosophies, and teachings that are love-based rather than fear-based. One quick way to evaluate the spiritual integrity of any religion or teaching is to ask, is this teaching directing my attention toward problems and things to avoid, or is it directing my attention to what I am capable of and what is beautiful and nice? Science. What is called science by most people in this version of the world and on this timeline is also a limited belief system, just like religions are. It is a bit more progressive or higher tone than religion in that it honestly seeks to examine the nature of reality. This is why its fruits have been at least some progress on some levels. Nevertheless, much of science is still tainted by materialist dogma of studying mostly what has been created rather than studying what creates it and what could be created. While this slows down our progress, it has the benefit of keeping the game of planet Earth alive for future souls who wish to incarnate and explore extreme limitation. For this reason, neither religion nor science can be blamed. Both systems are our creation, what we have pulled over our eyes in order to filter out infinity. Science one mini step higher will, however, involve recognizing consciousness as influential, if not as cause. Sexuality. For a spiritually mature being, there are no emotionally charged topics or taboos. Emotional charge on any of the topics mentioned in this chapter is an indicator of resistance toward life as it is, and thus resistance towards self and infinity. In general, sexuality has been tainted by numerous absurd restrictions and taboos which have nothing to do with human nature. Sexual energy is the same thing as spiritual energy and definitely something the soul enjoys and wants to experience a lot of when incarnating on Earth. In general, one could say that the more dulled and suppressed one's senses, feelings, and energy has become, the more extreme activities are needed in order to evoke any feeling. Feeling something is a matter of energy level. If your vibratory energy level is high, a slight touch could make you orgasmic. If your energy level is low, you will be needing pornography, sadistic abuse, or compulsive polygamy in order to feel anything. Not that any of these things are inherently negative, of course. It's simple to understand that the less you feel inside, the more you will need outside. Recall your teenager years when merely looking at a bare breast sent your sexual energy skyrocketing. If years later you need violence and overexposure in order to feel anything at all, you might want to think about where all your energy is gone. In any case, the only limit to how you experience sex is ultimately in your beliefs about it. And you can release those beliefs on your path to more and more and more fulfillment. Sex will be more enjoyable, and later on, you might even be willing to experience states that are even more energetic and ecstatic than sex. Addiction to sex reminds you that you have forgotten these high states. It then seems that sex is the thing. But trust me, there's even more out there. A few examples of typical limiting beliefs about sex. When you have sex, you waste energy, a belief that many really hold as true. I have to keep it secret when having sex with someone other than my partner. If you agree on a monogamous relationship, then don't have sex with others. If you agree on a polygamous relationship, then do have sex with others. It's as simple as that. Remain straight and honest, and there won't be a hint of problem in your life. Women have completely different approaches and needs than men. Only true if you believe it is. And so forth and so on. I recommend to drop the baggage you have picked up from experts and well-meaning friends and past experiences and look at the whole thing from a new and fresh perspective. Nothing is as you think it is unless you think it is. Children. Children develop and prosper the most when parents place trust in them and only supply general guidance and the protection of shelter, food, and the warmth of love. Anything other than that are the parents' beliefs being imposed on the child. From the perspective of the other side, parents are not responsible for what you chose and choose as your reality. If you have survived to this day, then your parents have done an excellent job, have done what they were meant to do, and their job is finished. In general, children are not yet as incarnate in physical time-space than grown-ups. For this reason, there is more to be learned from children than the other way around. A common misconception is that it's the children that are unknowing, stupid, and immature, while in actuality, it's the children who are still close to source before being conditioned by the beliefs of this world. Animals. The benefit of interacting with animals is that humans gain new senses of being and relating to the world. While many animals lack the intellectual capabilities of the human, they also have abilities which we lack, such as here and nowness, extrasensory perception, and different types of deep empathy. The negative extreme are people who become overly concerned and involved with animals, such as the person who spends years living with an animal without any contact to humans. This happens to those that believe they have failed in human-to-human relationships or have developed antagonism toward others, and thus themselves. Dolphins and whales. As advanced research has confirmed, dolphins and whales are not animals in the sense of lower intelligent species. They're the species on the planet that have more intelligence and experience than the human being. While this is not flattering to some, and most will fervently resist the notion, to readers of this book, it can be of great benefit to know this. Spending time with dolphins, swimming and interacting with them, will increase your vibratory signal and overall playfulness and intelligence. One needn't even look outside of Earth to find more intelligent life other than humans. The higher intelligence will become obvious to those who interact with them. Extraterrestrials and extradimensionals. There are more species in this universe alone than can be counted in a human lifetime. The diversity is enormous. On a lower level of perception, one might ask, is there other life in the universe? On the next higher, but still pretty low, level of perception, one might acknowledge a few negative aliens or evoke fearsome species. On a bit of a higher level of perception, one will not only acknowledge a wide variety of extraterrestrials, but also actively invite communication and exchange of knowledge with them. The reason not more are experienced in certain timelines and realities is because of the vibratory difference to them. Meeting them in the middle means for them to step down a few tones and you to move up a few tones to reach a place in which interaction can take place. The immature behavior displayed by most people on the subject is a far cry from meeting them as equals. If you do not feel equal to them, you will not be able to perceive them. Extraterrestrials are not the only beings you can interact with. There are even more beings in other realities dimensions, and universes you can play and exchange with. Who you're being determines who you can access. Life after life. For consciousness, there is no such thing as death. Death of the body, perhaps, but not even that is perceived as something unwanted, since consciousness never viewed the body more than a vehicle for this space-time reality. Losing a vehicle may evoke a bit of a loss feeling, but it's not the tragedy humankind makes of the subject of death. Actually, death is not something to be mourned, but a thing to be celebrated. It marks the return of the individual soul to its native state, and this state is joyful and ecstatic by nature. The life after life is in fact so enjoyable and energetic that there's not much time to grieve about the loss of a body. From this natural viewpoint, the sadness displayed about it on Earth looks almost comic. No consciousness is ever lost. If someone close to you has died, you can easily reconnect to that person by placing positive emotion on him or her. It's all the grieving and hurting that puts you out of vibratory reach of that person. Not that grief is an inherently bad thing. It's part of the space-time game even. But it's very difficult to connect to someone you believe you are disconnected from. How is that supposed to work? As for the afterlife, describing it is a whole book of its own, and I will leave the subject to another book by me or someone else. Aging. The aging of the body is a natural aspect of the game in linear time. It can be slowed down, however, and it doesn't have to mean degenerating or falling ill and senile. These are phenomena created by limiting belief. In order to age and remain healthy and youthful, merely allow your attention to flow to ages you like the way you were, recall them, and remain there vibratorily. The second you remember a younger age is the second you connect to it on a vibratory level. Furthermore, take good care of your body, its movement, and whatever nutrition you sense is good for it. Food, drinks, and drugs. Once again, what you believe about body and foods create more than what you eat or don't eat. If you believe cigarettes are good for you, they will be good for you. If you don't enjoy smoking due to limiting beliefs, cigarettes will kill you. If you believe so, you could eat anything you want without gaining weight. However, due to your intensely focused belief in physical reality and certain pre-programmed beliefs about masses and body weight, the easiest way is a mix of both, eating consciously and holding no limiting beliefs about foods. It is recommended that you don't listen to what experts or others say you're supposed to eat or what's good or bad for you, but you let your body feel and decide what is good for you and what is not. If you're in a supermarket and you're in a relaxed state of being, this will happen naturally. If you feel the body wanting salad, then this salad will be good for you. If you feel it wanting meat, the meat will be good for you, no matter what people say. It's an entirely different story when you are walking around a supermarket in a stressed out state and craving meat or chocolate. This will have slightly detrimental effects on your body. When choosing food, make sure you're not choosing them out of a craving, equals lack and inner emptiness, or out of beliefs of what others say you are supposed to eat, equals not listening to the body, but out of a relaxed and self-determined state and intact intuition. You will realize that some things that are no good for others are good for you, and vice versa. If someone shares their beliefs about how bad the food is you are eating, that is their belief, and nothing is forcing you to buy into that. You will also realize that your body knows exactly what is no good and good for it, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Ignoring the body's advice will make you feel unwell after eating. Appreciating its advice will make you feel well. As for drugs, it is the motivation behind taking drugs that mostly has the most detrimental effect on body and mind. Becoming addicted to substances to experience certain states, which quickly fade anyway, is the opposite of practicing reality creation. While it is a very good thing to long for higher states of energy, it is a very detrimental thing to believe you need anything outside of yourself in order to achieve them. It is an extreme variation of the worldview, not I am source. Outside reality is source. An exception to this rule is when a drug is taken only once or twice in a ritual or scientific setting for the very purpose of experiencing a state in order to later reproduce it without the drug. This is an entirely different type of motivation which will, in general, yield positive results. The war on drugs waged by this current society is, of course, the cause of drugs continuing being used in large amounts and irresponsible methods. Enlightened politics towards drugs would mean legalization coupled with education on wanted and unwanted effects, detoxification methods, and so on. This would cause a temporary upsurge in the use of drugs, followed by decreasing interest due to education and lack of resistance by authorities. Presuppositions of psychotherapy compared to reality surfing. Psychotherapy. The past is the cause of problems. Reality surfer. The past doesn't exist. Psychotherapy. Attention on problems. Talking, remembering, solves problems. Reality surfer. Attention on desires and intentions solves problems. Psychotherapy. Something is wrong with the client. He is sick. Reality surfer. The client is a multidimensional, infinite, eternal being. Psychotherapy. I am an expert and can solve the client's problems. Reality surfer. The client can solve his own issues. Psychotherapy. Healing takes a lot of time. Reality surfer. Healing can happen here and now. Presuppositions of motivational and success psychology compared to reality surfing. Coach, you can achieve anything if you set goals. Reality surfer. You can become receptive to your desires. Coach, you have to do more for your goals. Reality surfer. Do less, be more. Coach, you'll make it. Reality surfer. I can't tell you if you'll make it or not. That's up to you to decide. Coach, no pain, no gain. Reality surfer, like attracts like. If it feels good to you, is good for you. Coach, you have to overcome your fears, get rid of. Reality surfer. You have an emotional guidance system which tells you which path is right and not right for you. Fear is a helpful indicator. Coach, if you do X, you will get Y. Reality surfer. If you are X, you will get X. Coach, you need an action plan. Reality surfer. Or even better, do what you would be doing if your vision were already fulfilled. Presuppositions of New Age and spirituality compared to reality surfing. New Age. Address the subconscious, higher self, angels, aliens, guru to find solution. Reality surfer. All is one and you are that one. You are the spiritual authority. New Age. Attention to magic makes money. Reality surfer. Attention to wealth makes money. New Age. He is radiating negative energy. Reality surfer. Others have nothing to do with how you feel. New Age. I create reality. Reality surfer. I am reality. New Age. The world must get better. Reality surfer. By improving myself, I improve the world. New Age. I search. Reality surfer. I play. New Age. With this magic ritual X will work. Reality surfer. Through me this magic ritual will work. New Age. I need a healing. Reality surfer. I can heal myself. New Age. I am a healer. Reality surfer. We are all healers. New Age. I have to think positive. Reality surfer. I feel positive. New Age. I have to control my thoughts. Reality surfer. I feel positive. New Age. I have to ascend. Reality surfer. I appreciate the here and now. New Age. With affirmations and visualizations, X works. Reality surfer. Through me affirmations and visualizations work. New Age. Nothing is important. Everything is good. I don't have to do anything. Reality surfer. I choose what is important and good. I am responsible and enjoy actions that are aligned with my truest self. New Age. We are all the same. Reality surfer. We are all different, unique aspects of the one. New Age. I have to love what I dislike. Reality surfer. I put my attention on what I already love. New Age. Do what you want. Reality surfer. Do what you want with integrity. New Age. Do, have, be. Reality surfer. Be, do, have. New Age. My former lives tell me who I am. Reality surfer. What I feel like today tells me who I am. Buddhism. Desires lead to suffering. I must give up my desires. Reality surfer. Desires are the motor of the expansion of consciousness and the language of the soul. Buddhism. Life is an illusion. Enlightenment is real. Reality surfer. Everything is real. Everything is an illusion. The differences lie in vibratory frequency. Buddhism. I want to achieve enlightenment. Reality surfer. There is no final state, only many enlightenments and trillions of variations on happiness. Buddhism. I have to reincarnate. Reality surfer. You can reincarnate, but you don't have to. You can also reincarnate somewhere else or remain incarnationless. New Age. There are 7 levels, or 12 or 18. Reality surfer. There are an infinity of levels, planes, dimensions, planets, realities, universes, variations. Spirituality. I have to be disciplined. Reality surfer. Life is fun. Spirituality. I practice denying myself worldly pleasures. Reality surfer. I practice expressing my pleasure. Spirituality. Nothing matters. We give in to the will of the universe. Reality surfer. I am fully responsible. New Age. You have to repeat it often enough for it to become reality. Reality surfer. True. But the shortcut lies in simply being it. New Age. There are secret powers enslaving this world. Reality surfer. What you fear or focus importance and attention on can enslave you. What you don't focus fear on cannot enslave you. All is well. oceanofpdf.com. Sources and recommended literature. 1. Frederick Dodson / Reality Creation Coaching. 2. David Hawkins / Power versus Force. 3. Esther Hicks / The Astonishing Power of Emotions. 4. Harry Palmer / Resurfacing. 5. David Hawkins / Truth versus Falsehood. 6. Nisargadatta Maharaj / I Am. 7. Michael Newton / Journey of Souls. 8. Michael Newton / Destiny of Souls. 9. Daryl Anka / Bashar. 10. Elon / Your Power on a Plate, no longer in print. 11. Philip Golubuk / Field Training. 12. Serge King / Instant Healing. 13. Anthony Robbins / Awaken the Giant Within. 14. Pippin Ferreras / The Dive. oceanofpdf.com. About the author. Frederick E. Dodson, born in the USA in 1974, currently lives in London. He loves viewing life from many different viewpoints and putting spiritual knowledge into the practice of everyday life rather than following the 9 to 5 routine of a steady job. In his 20s, he wrote and published 15 books and held many hundreds of workshops, talks, and seminars on the topic of reality creation. Lately, however, he has retreated from teaching somewhat and only conducts 1 course a year. He has started viewing, experiencing joy higher than teaching others. Why? Because everyone has their own version of the truth, and the purpose of his life is not to get others to agree with him, but to have fun. His favorite activities in the meantime include scuba diving, surfing the internet, writing, collecting movies, traveling, and lucid dreaming. If you like this book and want to learn more, check out my website at www.realitycreation.org and my course, Reality Creation Coaching. Disclaimer. The author is not responsible for effects readers have or allegedly have from this book, just like a driving school instructor is not responsible for his students' driving. Furthermore, the information provided in this book is not a substitute for contemporary medical assistance. Copyright notice. The copyright of this work lies with the author. Any unauthorized reproduction without the author's written consent will be handled legally. oceanofpdf.com